I feel like we've done this before. When has that ever stopped you? Fair point. 11 pallets enter. 1 pallet leaves. Welcome to Thunderdome! Don't worry, I hate me too. Hello, Champagne Dreamers. Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, I don't know how you found me, but stick around. I would love to have you subscribe, hit that button, and stick around. My name is Janessa, and I am North Dakota's trash queen of glam, geek, and gore. And we are returning to one of my favorite series that I do here on the channel, the Makeup Thunderdome. And for today's video, we are ranking 11, count them, 11 palettes from Blend Bunny Cosmetics. They're kind of a darling of the indie makeup community. I adore them, and some people may say, do they even have 11 palettes? They do, because I'm including all of their palettes, including cheek and face palettes. So we're gonna go through 11 palettes from Blend Bunny Cosmetics. If you wanna see my ranking and hear what I think about these lovely, gorgeous palettes, then stick around, because we're getting into it right now. All right, so let's get the disclaimer out of the way. Obviously, I love Blend Bunny Cosmetics. I have every one of their palettes that they've released to date. They've been coming out with stuff, and I know that as of this filming, they've already started previewing the next thing. So this is as current as it could be when we are filming this, but I have 11 palettes, and they include 8 palettes for the eyes, eye or pressed pigment palettes. We know how that shit goes, don't we? Europe. You guys are so far ahead of us all the time. And I also have 3 face palettes, so we're going to talk about all of them. Now, sometimes I separate out the face palettes, but for Blend Bunny, I think the quality is just as good, so I'm including all of them in the ranking. So I love all of them, and I really do love all of these. I mean, this was kind of splitting hairs for all of these. So don't get butthurt, don't get mad if your favorite is on the bottom. Just know that this list, even more than usual with these ranking videos, is so much about personal preference and the kinds of colors I use and the kinds of color stories I appreciate. So this is not anything personal. I do love all of these palettes. I'm not decluttering any of them. I love them. They're sticking around, but this is how I rank them. We have to get in, we have to get brutal, and we have to pick an order. I am a Capricorn. We like firm boundaries and judgment. So we're going to judge, and we're going to get into it right now with number 11, which I don't have a cutaway because my countdown only goes to 10, but that's fine. Now, in the number 11 spot, I mean, just look at me. If you have watched me for 2 seconds, this should not come as any sort of surprise. The All Done Up palette. This is one of their neutral offerings, and this one especially has kind of a grungy kind of flair to it. It's beautiful, I do love it, but it's just not tailor-made for me. So here you can see the color story, and you can see that this one is a little bit more muted, a little bit grungier, and what I love about their palettes is that usually you can go in rows and you'll get a sort of coordinated look. Obviously, makeup is fun, makeup is art, makeup is play. You can use these however you want, you can mix and match however you want. But for these palettes, generally, if you follow a row, you're going to be able to get a little coherent look. So you can use that in the crease, that to darken up the outer corner. You can use that one in the inner corner, or a brow bone highlight, and then there's a shimmer for the lid. And that you can see follows through all 5 of these rows. So this one's a little bit smaller, there's fewer shades. I mean, smaller when we're talking about 20 shades. That's a little bit of a perspective jump. I don't mind big palettes, and this one feels like a small palette, even though there is 20 shades here. But this one, obviously, these shimmers are really pretty. I do really love these shimmers, but these are just a little more dusty, a little more muted, a little more neutral than I typically go for. So I love this. The quality is great. On all of these palettes, the quality is top-notch, so we're really getting into preference in this video. Keep that in mind. Don't get butthurt. I mean, I'll take the comments down below, but I'm not going to be worried about it. So, I mean, you do you, boo-boo. In the number 10 spot, we've got the Dollhouse palette. So this is their other neutral palette. This should come as no surprise because there's not really anything I can say much about the performance. Really, truly, the performance on all of these palettes is excellent. I have very little that I can say about the performance. It really comes down to preferences like matte shimmer ratios, the color stories, things like that. So this is the Dollhouse palette, and this is beautiful. But no surprise, this is a lot more neutral than I typically go. Now, I love that this is like her version of neutral, and like her version of neutral includes purple with a pop of blue, and like this kind of green tinged shimmer. Now with this one, you get, again, the rows that are a coordinated little look if you want to just use those together, if you want to play it safe. And I love that there's little unexpected pieces like this blue in with these purples. Or this one goes a little bit green. You can add a little bit of like a green undertone to it. And you've got all these different shades. But again, just beautiful, soft. There's nothing beautiful, soft, or delicate about this hooker clown that you're looking at. So this is what I aspire to, and this is what happens. So that's why the Dollhouse palette is on the bottom. If you are a neutral, if you're a soft, feminine, delicate, lingerie look girly, this is gonna be your dream palette. But for me, I just need a little bit more color. A little bit. Speaking of color, in the number 8 spot, we have the Surge palette. Now, I love this because now we're getting into some color. And there's some things about this palette that I really do love. So again, we've kind of got coordinated rows. And I love that this one is giving us, again, these sort of coordinated colors in each of these rows. But it's a little bit twisted. It's not your box of crayons, primary sort of colors. We've got a whole bunch of greens that are kind of... This is very 90s to me. It's very... Instead of green, we had olive green. Instead of blue, we had teal. Instead of red, we had cranberry. You know, that's very 90s grunge Kurt Cobain. But I love that it's paired up with these early 90s, like, neon shades. And then we've got beautiful shimmers. And this row right here is fucking wild, but I kind of love it. Because it's so weird and different. Because you've got this, like, olive army drab green with a matte white and a matte black, a peachy pink leaning shimmer, and a neon yellow. Like, this row is unhinged in the best way possible. I need to do just like sit down and do a look with just this row, because I think it's going to be as wild and crazy and beautiful and perfect as I imagine it's going to be. But the other rows are a little bit more coordinated. They go together a little bit more. I think sometimes using these dark, grungy colors with these neon colors is a bit of a challenge. And so I think that's why this is a little bit lower. I do love neons, and I do love these shimmers, but the rest of this is a little bit not as user-friendly, not as beginner-friendly. It tries to give you these guides as much as possible, but this one takes a little bit more work, a little bit more imagination. So that's what bumped it down to number 9. In the number 8 spot...
There's a she-wolf in the closet. Open up and set her free. Ow!
I hope you got it before it was gone. It is the Primal palette. This is number 8. This is one of the rainbow palettes. Blend Bunny Cosmetics was kind of the brand that for a little while, some of the like saltier girlies were like, how many rainbow palettes do you need? And it's like, well, let's see how many they release, and that's how many, because all of their rainbow palettes are gorgeous and they work together so well. They really do not have any overlap. And this Primal palette, they did discontinue. She's kind of maybe teased that there's going to be something that might sort of replace this or a little twist on it. We're going to see how that goes. But this is the Primal palette. And this is the rainbow palette that has shimmers. So we're going to have an all matte rainbow palette down the road. But this one has some shimmers. And it's got, again, these like beautiful coordinated rows. We've got red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. And again, it makes it super simple. If you are intimidated, if you're new to playing with this much color, You can mix and match to your heart's content if you are an expert, but if you're new, it gives you these little coordinated rows. And as a drag queen, as somebody who loves theatrical makeup, having this big pan of matte black and matte white, so good. I think every beginner drag queen, as they're learning their makeup, has to have a matte black and a matte white, because you can do so much to change your shadows and play with color and experiment with gradients and lightening and darkening. These are so good. Now, in terms of why this is maybe a little lower on the list, I do love a rainbow palette, but I have so many rainbow palettes. Let me know down in the comments below if you'd like to see a Makeup Thunderdome of my rainbow palettes. That could get wild and woolly. Very primal. But let's go ahead and take a look at this. I love these shimmers. These are gorgeous, but there is only one shimmer. That's one thing with Blend Bunny. She is very much, I think, coming from a makeup artist background. And so it's always more matte heavy. I love a shimmer. And this row down here, I love that it's got a matte black and a matte white. But I just would love a few more shimmers. Because there's two main like rainbow palettes in this line, and one of them is all matte, I would have loved a second row of shimmers. And it would be tough to do like a little matte white and a little matte black. And it is good to have these big pans to be able to use them for a while. But I feel like this is more than anyone will ever need. Even a big old drag queen hooker clown like me, I'm not going to go through either of these pans, even if I use this all the time. So I maybe would have loved another row of shimmers, maybe really pale shimmers, to be able to do like an inner corner highlight and do these on the lid. So I love this palette, but it just had to stay a little bit lower because I wanted more shimmer. I wanted more from it. I love what it's giving me, but I feel like these, even though I love these, like I said, every beginner drag queen needs to have a black and a white, really good matte shadow. And then you can learn and grow. Drag is subjective. You can do whatever you want. But I think as you're learning the techniques, having those is essential. So I do love this. This is in the number 8 spot. In the number 7 spot, we have our first face palette. Now, Blend Bunny dipped into some face palettes, and they've done 3 of them, and I love them. When I ranked my Trixie Cosmetics palettes, if you missed that Thunderdome, I'll link that for you right here. I separated out the blush palettes because I loved them, but I was like, they need to have their own little moment. They're kind of in a different realm of the eyeshadow palettes. For Blend Bunny, I don't think they are in a different realm. I mean, I know that like blush is never as exciting as eyeshadow to a big drag queen like me, but I love their cheek palettes. And the first one in the number 7 spot is Bare Cheeks. Now, just because this is the lowest of the 3, don't think that I don't love this palette, because when I look at this and I see the lace and I see that it's bare, I'm like, oh, nudie blushes. This is gonna be some beige, boring bullshit. Nah, bitch. Look at this. I love this. Even with this kind of nude, feminine sort of thing, you get a real interesting range of colors. You get these warmer, like more kind of orangey terracotta into this like soft cherry, these mauvey purples, this bubblegum pink, and a couple beigey browns. But these are a little bit more soft touch, silky, lingerie feel kind of blushes. They're not, they do have some pigment, so don't go too heavy right away. Like if you're going in with this, you may want to start a little soft, but I like that they can be a little bit silkier, just a little whisper of like a lingerie feel. I love it. I think these are fun, but they are a little bit more subdued, but you still get a range of colors. Just because you like soft, feminine, pretty doesn't mean you don't want colors. It doesn't mean you want your whole world to be beige. So I really do love this, but it is a little bit softer. Again, I am not a delicate flower, so this had to be a little bit lower down on the countdown, but this is the Bare Cheeks blush palette. In the number 6 spot,
Here we are now, entertain us!
I don't know when we went off the rails. It's a lot. This is the Sugar and Grunge palette from Blend Bunny. This was kind of her interpretation of the 90s, her remembrance of the 90s. And I love this like beautiful like cabbage rose wallpaper sort of cover. This is my favorite cover. This is my favorite packaging of their entire line. This one beats everything else. Even one we're going to see a little bit later, which is beautiful, but this is my favorite. And I love the inside. Because as we talked about earlier, this is really kind of an interesting play on the 90s. Everybody thinks the 90s was just like immediately grunge, and it wasn't. Grunge kind of built up slowly. You know, Nirvana kind of came around 93, 94, and as we got later into the decade, it really did start going very grungy, very dark, very cranberry, very teal, and there's some of that in the darker shades, but there's also these brighter shades, and that was what I remember from the early 90s. There was still a lot of like neon leftovers from the 80s, but there was also these kind of twisted like jewel tone brights, so like these kind of shades, where again, it's not like a true pink, but like a dusty rose or like a turquoise. And this on gray, a lot of times on like a gray background. That is so early 90s to me. If you remember the Facts of Life when they opened that store, that's what I remember of that store, of just this like gray white with these like twisted fun, bright, vivid, kind of twisted jewel tone colors. And I love that she fucked with everybody's world with this. People were so butthurt about this because you still get the coordinated row, except that she mixed up the shimmers, which is such a 90s stomping your little feet in your Doc Martens thing to do. I love it because people were in the comments. And can I just tell you, I dream of a day where I have the wealth and privilege and luxury where the biggest worry in my life is where somebody placed the shimmers in a fucking eyeshadow palette. Like, people were enraged. I dream to live that life someday. I love it. I love that you can still see that there's like a shimmer that goes with each of the rows, but she didn't put them in the row. She like swapped them all around, and people lost their goddamn minds. It was delicious. Because some people were just like, oh, I maybe would have done it different, but some people were big mad. And I love that. I love the tears of the petty. Oh, God, I feed on it. It's so good. I love this design. I can still see what's supposed to go with what. But that's the thing, is that those are just suggestions. That's just a way to make it a little bit easier for people who are a little bit more hesitant. So I think to kind of twist it up and say, what if you paired these shimmers? What if you did all these like drab greens and did a pink shimmer on the lid? So fucking what? Why not do it? That's that kind of rebellious, annoying, angsty 90s spirit. I am here for it. That's when I was an angsty, awful teenager. So I'm here for it. I love it. I fully endorse this palette. And this is my number 6. I love it. And like I said, if we were ranking just the packaging, it's my number 1. In the number 5 spot...
Blame it on my juice, blame it on my juice, baby.
Oh, awkward time for a Lizzo reference. Yikes. This is the Juicy Cheeks blush palette, and I love this. I am a blush monster. Clearly, I didn't use this palette today, but this palette is absolutely in the spirit of this crazy peachy orange blush look that I did today. And it's filled with all of these beautiful tropical fruit. I love like a marigold, mustard kind of yellow blush moment. It's so weird and twisted. I love it. It's unhinged. It's beautiful. More people need to try peach and orange blush. It really is. That's why I love this. I mean, I know that this is extreme because I'm a fucking hooker clown. I say that over and over again. But like a green look with a peach blush and a red lip, forget about it. So beautiful. Up to these like bright purples, these bright pinks. So beautiful. These blushes are so like pigmented, but again, you can kind of sheer them out if you're careful. And you can just do this like wispy wash of like a beautiful tropical color. Or just go ham like I do. Just really lay it on. These are so beautiful. These had to be my number 5. I love these blushes so much. In the number 4 spot, we've finally arrived at that beautiful rainbow palette. The Blends palette. This is the original. I'm pretty sure this is the one they launched with. This is a classic. It's one of the best rainbow palettes that I have. Again, let me know if you want to see a rainbow palette Thunderdome. If I do one, this one will absolutely be a contender because it is just a really beautiful all matte rainbow color story. And what I love, I've talked about this in videos over and over and over again. This, for those of you who've watched all my videos, this will not be new. What I love about this, even though there's no shimmers, this made it to number 4 and there's no shimmers, which should tell you about the quality of this, is that they've done each of the colors in the rainbow. So we've got, you know, 8 different colors, plus we've got grayscale and we've got brown scale. And what they've done is they've given us a deep, a medium, and a light shade for each of those colors. So if you just want to do a very simple monochromatic look, crease, outer V, lid. And that's all you have to do. And you can have a green eye, a yellow eye, an orange eye, a red eye, I mean pink eye, but we'll leave that alone. But you can do all of these colors and do a little coordinated look. And if these are not enough, if you want more gradients, if you want more to kind of play with in the color realm, you can change it up with the grayscale. If you want a little bit of skin tone situation to kind of blend it out, you've got these browns. For somebody who is learning drag makeup and trying to find their drag persona, I think that this is a great starting point because this gives you so many colors and it's this whole rainbow and it's so customizable because of this that you can really start to build any kind of look and then just bring in shimmers from somewhere else. Nobody has to be a one palette wonder. You could absolutely go in and bring shimmers from another palette and just combine them. You know, my first ever collab that I did with Makeup by Torrance, haven't seen it? What you been doing? Check it out right here. We used the Danessa Myricks Lightworks multi-chrome palette, and we could each bring in one other palette for mattes, and I felt like I was cheating because I just brought in this one. Because I was like, no matter what I get in the makeup bingo, where we're drawing things at random, I'm gonna be able to find something here that will tie it all together. So I absolutely love this. In terms of just personal preferences, obviously there are other things that are higher up on the list. We haven't gotten to the top 3 yet, but this is absolutely a must-have in my collection. This pairs so beautifully with the Primal. I know it seems like it's just 2 rainbow palettes. If you really look at the shades in Primal and the shades in here, it really does bring you different reds and greens and yellows and blues. So they pair together so beautifully. Absolute perfection. I love the Blends palettes so much. In the number 3 spot, I am a highlight whore. I love the Noctilucent palette. This is the one that I mentioned earlier where I said Sugar and Grunge is my favorite packaging. This is a close second, this beautiful like iridescent cloud. And apparently Noctilucent means like something that glows at night, I think is what she said. It's so beautiful. These beautiful, I have used this so much. I love these beautiful, glowing, glittery, beautiful shimmers. This is absolutely gorgeous. And when I think about my blend bunnies, the way I do these rankings is I set them all out in front of me, all of them open. And I think, okay, if I had to declutter one of these, if I was forced and I had to declutter one, which one am I getting rid of? And that's how I pick, and that's kind of how I do the order. And this stayed in until number 3. That's how much I love these glittery, beautiful highlights. I love these. I think that cheek products sometimes have a hard time competing with eye products in these Thunderdomes. That's why I usually separate them out. But this, beautiful. I absolutely love it. This is the Noctilucent highlighter palette. It is perfection. If you are a highlighter whore like me, you need this palette in your life. Absolutely. In the number 2 spot, girl, better save up them coins. The Trove palette. I love this and I love the idea of it. Now, this is just a little quad, and if I remember right, if I'm wrong, I'll put it on the screen, but if I remember right, this was $68. American dollars. But the reason why is because they are beautiful, beautiful multi-chrome shadows. These are absolutely gorgeous. Now, these are really good quality black-based multi-chrome. So, like, a pan this size of this kind of shade, if you were buying it at Cleona, it would be $17, $20, $22. So getting 4 of them in a palette for 60 some dollars is not bad. I mean, I know it seems like a lot, especially when they sell their other palettes with 30 shades or whatever for much cheaper. But I love that they did this because the owner was talking about this on social media, and she talked about the fact that what she wanted to do is that this really went with another palette, which, spoiler alert, is my number 1. We know that's the only one that's missing. But she really wanted these as part of that collection, but it would have raised the price of the palette so much. She was like, why don't we keep them separate? That way, for the big makeup hounds, the people who don't mind spending the money, they can buy this little quad and get these multi-chromes. But if you want to be part of the experience, if you want to be part of the collection, you can still get the base palette at the regular lower price. And then you can mix in your own shimmers or mix in your own multi-chromes you've gotten from other places. Because especially, like, these are beautiful, but they are a kind of typical multi-chrome. So these are shades that if you have been into multi-chromes for a long time, if you own a lot of multi-chromes, you might have a couple of these, 1 or 2. And then it's like, okay, if I've already got 1 or 2 of these, is it worth it to buy this? Now, I haven't gotten very deep into multi-chrome, so I didn't have any of these shades. So I was like, you know what? 60 some dollars for this is worth it to me. And I love that she was thinking about the experience of the whole collection. She wanted people to be able to take part in this idea because a collection, I mean, I don't know if you realize this, but makeup is not a necessity. You will not die without makeup. It does not meet any of your Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's just a fun product. And so a collection isn't just a necessary item, it's a fantasy, it's an experience. And she wanted more people to be able to have a part of that experience, and I think that that's commendable. And so she realized that, like, putting these into the palette would make the full palette way more expensive and out of some people's reach. So she said, you know what? I still want to make them available. It's still part of my vision, but let's put it in a quad, and then we'll save the regular palette for people who want to spend a little bit less and still get a lot of glam. So I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. We're going to move on to the number 1 so we can finish this discussion. But in number 2, the beautiful multi-chromes of the Trove palette. That means, of course, no surprise, if you are a Blend Bunny fan, you know that my number 1 pick is the Lure palette. I am a mermaid fan all day long. I love the scale packaging. I love this. And these are really my colors. I love greens and blues and turquoises and purples. That's my wheelhouse. I love it. And so again, we've got these coordinated rows where you've got a light, a medium, and a deep, and you've got a shimmer, and we've got this kind of fun, you know, kind of mauve-y pink, more neutral. And then this is kind of a duo slash multi-chrome shade. This shade Pearl, really beautiful. And then we've got kind of a green row. We've got a purple row. We've got a turquoise row. We've got a kind of magenta row. And we've got a blue row. And I love that some of these are even a little surprising. This takes a little bit of a twist. There's some yellow gold tones in here. This one, even though these are very cool blue-based pinks, kind of an orchid sort of situation, this is a very ruddy, rosy kind of shimmer. I love this. This blue shimmer is a little bit darker than some of these others compared to the mattes. So I love this. I love the mermaid vibes. I absolutely adore this palette. This is my number 1. I think this is so cool. And if you did buy both palettes, you can combine these multi-chromes with this Lure palette. I mean, these together is kind of my number 1, but they are separate palettes, so we broke it apart. This was number 2, this was number 1. But I loved this sort of mermaid treasure collection. Absolutely beautiful. It's my favorite. I'm so excited to see what Blend Bunny continues to do. They're teasing like a more nude kind of face and eye palette right now, but I am so excited. I've been so interested in what they've done and how they've presented their brand. I just think it's amazing, and I can't wait to see what they do, because even if it's not exactly for me, like the all done up or the dollhouse, it still inspires me. And that to me is the sign of a great brand, where even if the color story doesn't like tickle my pickle a little bit, like these do, it still inspires me and it still gives me some ideas. It's not made for me, but it still makes me want to play. So this is my number 1 and number 2, but I love the Lure collection, this whole thing together. But obviously we had to pick a number 1, and that's the Lure palette. All right, that is the video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know down below, what is your favorite Blend Bunny palette? Do you love this ranking that I did? Do you think I put them all in the wrong order? Do you have a totally different favorite? Are you a neutral girly and you just want to play in the dollhouse all day long? Let me know down in the comments below. And while you're down there, don't forget to give me that thumbs up so that I know you appreciated the video. I really do appreciate it when you do that, because it helps me as a little teeny tiny small channel. Any bump to engagement in the algorithm is so important, so I really do appreciate it. And you know what? If you hate my hooker clown face, if you thought my rankings were all wrong and I have terrible taste, give me a thumbs down. It's all engagement. The algorithm isn't a picky bitch, and neither am I. While you're down there, don't forget you can also hit the subscribe button, become one of the Champagne Dreamers, and hit that bell icon so you'll be notified of all future uploads. I try really hard to make sure I upload at least 1 video a week, and sometimes, if you are very lucky, you might even get a bonus video. Ooh, it's expensive. If you'd like to chat, banter, or commiserate between uploads, all of my social media will be linked down in the description box below, including a link to my website, The World of Champagne, at JanessaJ.com. Thank you so much for watching. I love and appreciate all of you. I hope you enjoyed. Makeup Thunderdomes are some of my favorite videos to do. If you have any brands you'd like to see enter the Thunderdome and see who comes out on top, let me know down in the comments below. And until I see you again, bye. In the number 2 spot, girl.
You crack yourself.
So I'm sure.
Why would you do this to yourself? $68?
Yep.
You crazy. I don't care how pretty it is.
Pretty girl. You shut your whore mouth over there.
Said not a damn thing.
I do love this. This is in the number... What number? Number 8.